Stephen Harper and Canada's Radical Makeover. Party of One by Micheal Harris. Narrated by Puttonen. For James Baxter. Parliament can hardly be weakened any more than it already is. Harper can't go much further without making the institution dysfunctional. He's trying to control every aspect of House business. In fact, it will have to be returned to its former state by someone, if we are to have a democracy. Peter Milliken, July 7, 2012. Interview with the author, Herds Lake, Greater Madawaska, Ontario. 1. Sign of the Times. On the night that Stephen Harper won the May 2, 2011 federal election, one of the most famous pollsters in Canada found himself in the company of very senior Conservatives at what should have been a victory party. It felt more like a wake. When the pollster asked why everyone was so glum, one of them replied, "This is still a Liberal country and a Liberal public service, and we have to get everything done in one term." The pollster was later approached by a client who was anxious to do business with the new Conservative government. He had a practical question for the pollster, who knew Ottawa inside out. Who was in Harper's inner circle? The man wanted to know. The pollster replied, "There is no inner circle, just a dot." It was a brilliant description of what the country had glimpsed through two Harper-led minority governments. The Conservative Party of Canada under Stephen Harper appeared to be a one-man band. Would that change after the Tories had a safe majority government, having won 166 of 308 seats in the House of Commons? A few formalities remained before Stephen Harper would assume total control of the country and begin to provide the answer. 2 weeks after winning the election, the Harper cabinet was sworn in at Rideau Hall. It featured veterans such as Jim Flaherty, Tony Clement, and John Baird, as well as 9 newcomers, including Peter Penishway, Alice Wong, and Joe Oliver. Harper promised that his team would hit the road running on its key priority, the economy. All that was left now was to work out the government's legislative agenda and then have it delivered in early June in the speech from the throne. On the morning of the speech, June 3, 2011, Bridget DePape felt very tired. The previous night there'd been a lot to do, and she'd stayed up late to make sure everything was ready. Friends had briefed her on her legal rights in the event she was detained or arrested. A press release had to be prepared, and of course she had to buy the red construction paper for her sign, and then hand-paint it. She barely made it to Wallach's, an Ottawa art supply store, before it closed. Using the iconic octagonal shape that guards intersections across the land, her red stop sign featured 2 words in white letters: Stop Harper. DePape stowed her sign in her backpack in the downstairs change room of the Senate, where she worked as a page. An hour before the Governor-General delivered the speech from the throne, she retrieved the sign and tucked it into her skirt, under her blazer. She told me that her greatest fear was that, before she could carry out her silent protest, someone might spot the sign. I was very nervous when seating the Governor-General's family that they would see the red of the sign poking out from my blazer, or that it would fall out. With her heart racing, the determined protester joined the black-clad and bow-tied pages as they took their places. DePape, her long brown hair tied off in a braid hanging over her right shoulder, was stationed at the southwest wing of the Senate chamber. Time had slowed to a crawl. Although she was comforted by the knowledge that her friends were waiting at a nearby coffee shop, the 22-year-old was distressed. She was afraid of what her parents would say, of being arrested, and even of being spied on later by the political establishment whose pomp and circumstance she was about to upstage. The lawyer she had consulted told her that the worst that could happen to her under an archaic law was being sentenced to decades in jail for the high crime of frightening the Queen. More likely, she would get a ticket for trespassing and a small fine, and would perhaps be banned from Parliament Hill. DePape became even more nervous when Stephen Harper strode into the chamber and took his seat to the right of the Governor-General. Paralyzing fear that could freeze the will to act
Sample complete. Ready to continue?